Scott Weingart, hero, messiah. You know, foam may be not for profit, but it is not without profits. Scott, you were one of its profits. I thought I'd better take a picture of you because otherwise this never happened. The Berlin Wall never fell. Communism never ended because nobody took pictures of it and tweeted them. Today's session is going to be about In Pod We Trust. This is a great city to attack groupthink, and I am going to completely unfairly suggest that a new religion has grown up around social media. Social media isn't worthless, but Scott, my dear friend, compared to other forms of communication, it's worth less. And you know, taking you on's quite the thing. It's been interesting during these sessions that people have come up to me and said, don't do this to this person, and you leave my hero alone and this person. You got lots of hero worship out there. Now, it's not that you've brought it on. I don't think smack turns people into heroes or demons, but I think social media does. And you and I are going to address this because you know what? One of our faculty members is having a bit of a cry in the back room because of comments that have already been made about some talks in this session. So guys, without fear or favor, as the New York Times says, I'm going to chat with Scott, but have a chat with each other as well. So Scott, you divorced Twitter on social media? Is there any hypocrisy in this, Sean? Oh, by the way, bit of mine hair? Great minds drink together. Can I get you something?
Sure.
Thank you, Sean.
I've already been accused of being short, poorly endowed, and a Trump voter, so I think it can only go up from here, Peter.
I shall be selling these in the lobby later, folks. What's your K index, my friend?
It's got to be approaching 200. Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
They might not know what that is, though. You should tell them.
Cardassian index, as I understand it, Sarah referred to it earlier today, is a division basically of your social media presence over a logarithmic calculation of your H index, the number of citations you've had. Over 5 is supposed to be too much social media presence. Under 1.5 is supposed to be actually you're not getting your message out. What is yours?
I got to be approaching 200 at this point.
How do you feel about that?
I have... Don't do that.
That's what I'm told you're supposed to ask.
I have 3 things to say about that, if you would allow me, Inquisitor.
Please.
Okay, first of all, that's for scientists. If they took into account my work product, which are podcasts and blogs, and how many times those have been cited, my index may look different. If they looked at my traditional publications and allowed alt metrics into the mix, it also might be different. But that's a minor point. The thing that just strikes me as hypocrisy is the fucking elitism of condoning...
Swear words? Sorry.
Of condoning following certain people as being acceptable, but we look at the people that follow Kim Kardashian and get value out of that as being somehow they're saps, they're less. But if we extend that argument, what are you saying about the people that follow me? That's incredibly insulting. You're saying that they're just ignorant and shouldn't be doing it. They should only be following the scientists. Are there any MCRIT listeners in this audience? Round of applause if you are.
Yay!
All right. So that sounds like a good portion of smack. And so the question is, why do you hate smack, Brindley? Could you tweet that hashtag Peter Brindley hates smack, please?
Apparently, Peter Brindley is addicted to smack. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Scott, do you take your phone to the toilet with you? And if so, that's suggested to be a sign of addiction to social media. When I read that, I altered my bathroom habits. How about you?
I just clean my phone more often. No. No, I'm actually, as I mentioned, I'm not a huge fan of social media. The Instagrams, the Facebooks, the Twitter. And I've tried to really get off of that for one of the reasons you allude to, which is there's a danger. There's a combination of depersonalization. They don't really think the people they're talking to are people, and anonymity. They feel they're hidden. In fact, the American insurance companies did a study. People in convertibles, far less likely to flip the bird than people who are in enclosed boxes because they realize people are seeing them. And that's the danger of things like Twitter.
Scott, I'm very concerned that your country is run by an orange psychopath. No, that's cheap. No, be quiet. That's cheap. That the climate is burning up and that we really do have equity issues around the world. I just don't feel the need to share it with everybody. Am I missing something?
I think we've moved beyond the here's what I had for breakfast this morning, at least in the phone world. So that's not the problem. I think what foam is oh no.
You're just boring. I mean, no, carry on.
Foam has the medical education first, and if there is any social media engagement, it's really to spread the word on that as opposed to the ostensibly less important topics.
Thank you. Do you think social media is making us more connected, less connected, more literate, less literate? In 140 characters or less.
I think blogs and podcasts have exponentially expanded medical education, and I think they speak for themselves in terms of what they've done. This conference is a testament to it. The other stuff, crap.
Okay, fair enough. So, are we better for having social media, or are we just different?
What do you folks think? A round of applause if we're better for social media. There you go.
I mean, this is going to sound very cruel, but as an intensive care doctor, nobody even writes a suicide note anymore. It's that does sound awful, doesn't it? I wish to retract that statement. My point being, it's wrong, isn't it? Read a book. Phone up a friend. My understanding is in the UK, 29 minutes is spent for every hour that people actually spend together. My children say, Dad, how did you answer, surrogate dad, how did you answer questions before we had Google? And I said, you know what, we talked it through, and even when we didn't have the answers, we still learned something. And they looked back gobsmacked about this prehistoric time we lived in. You grew up without social media. Were you the lesser for it?
I think in medical education, I would have been if I trained at a time it wasn't available, because what social media fills is that gap of experience-based teaching, of the tacit knowledge, the things that journal articles can't get across. Here's how I do it. And that would never make it. It wouldn't make snuff for real publication. But we could write a blog post. We could do a podcast on a crashing pulmonary edema patient. Here's the way I'd manage it. Is it evidence-based? Well, this part isn't because there is no evidence, but I got to do something. Here's what I do, and maybe that'll help the next person, so we'll put it out there. I think there's a huge value to that.
Scott, if I hadn't eaten so many pies in the last few weeks, you and I would be doing this in the lotus position, because the next part is meditation. How much time do you need to spend in your own head, Scott?
Yeah, no, it's a fair thing. I mean, it seems externally, it's a solipsistic activity, go out and meet with some friends if you need some stress reduction. But the thing is, I don't think you actually know yourself until you meditate. You kind of just drift through life believing your own bullshit. But if you sit 10, 20 minutes and actually let the base thoughts disappear, you start realizing, oh, here's who I am. And you may like that, you may not. I mean, I throw it back at you, Peter. You've made comments that's a little too woo, you don't want to do it. What are you afraid of finding in there?
Oh, good. I'm terrified of what I might find in there. It's all circus wheels and scared bunnies. I'm not scared of what I might find in there. I just actually think there are other ways to it that aren't so terribly new age, that don't come with their own set of jogging pants, that don't sell a product. I think you can read poetry, a book, you can enjoy actually being present with your children. I worry that meditation is not used for what meditation was intended for. Not for you to just be, but to help you do. And so we're teaching it to soldiers so they can be, not better killing machines, but so they can go out and do their job. We're teaching it to doctors so they can do their job. That, to me, is not what meditation is. Meditation is just being.
Well, you know,
Ooh.
You got it.
Come on.
There was at least one person there.
Thanks, Mom.
So, you know, I'll go back to one piece of what you said, which is, why don't you just be present with your children? I don't know how many people are actually being present with their children. I don't know how many are actually putting down their phone, but even without, you know, other distractions, how many of them are not thinking about what they have to do at work each day? And I'm sure there's some out there, you might be one of them, Peter, who without any meditation are capable of that, capable of divorcing all the other externalities and just concentrating on your kids. I know for me, if I meditate, I'm much better at being present with my children, at reading poetry, at doing pretty much anything. I don't condone meditation to be used to be better killing machines, but I do condone it to be better at whatever job you do, especially ones that are stressful and difficult.
So could we not just pour a cup of tea and stare out of the window? Could we not treat life more as a game of snooker where you walk around the table, think about your shots before you take them? Because I worry that social media and its antidote, meditation, which is equally new age, you almost wouldn't need one without the other. If we smashed up the social media machines,
I'd stop meditating.
We could pour a cup of tea.
Okay, if you could pour a cup of tea, look out, and actually concentrate on what you're seeing, you are meditating, and you don't need anything else. But I doubt it. I doubt many people could do that. I know I can't. It's really hard. If I start looking out there, maybe I'll make it 10 or 20 seconds, but then other things start popping up. And unless you're aware of that, you might think you're being present, but you're not.
The greatest thing I learned on my attempt for meditation, other than the danger of flatus in a room of strangers, was actually just to simply not run out into the traffic all the time and try and direct the cars. And I think it goes with our doctor personality, our nurse personality, paramedic personality, that we're used to controlling the world. How do we get beyond that? How do we, to take the sort of nirvana example, how do we move beyond interfering to just being?
I'm the worst person to ask this. I have divorced myself from the world to a great extent. I try to concentrate on the tiny little niche that I actually have control over, the few things that exerting effort and will might actually make a change. And maybe that's like a really lazy response to all the horrors that are going on right now. But I would argue maybe that's what meditation brings you to, is the idea that I can't make a huge change, but there's a tiny little locus of control I have, and maybe I'll just concentrate on that.
Brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, has Dr. Scott Weingart overestimated the abilities of social media and meditation? A cheer for yes. Yeah, that was for yes. Or no, he's on the nose.